Hey everybody, welcome back to the June edition of the Church of the Harvest Family Ministries podcast. My name is Royce, Family Ministries pastor here at Church of the Harvest, and I'm here with the most amazing children's director and human being of all time. Almost. I mean, Jesus exists, and then there's like my wife and children, but then there's Cynthia Lewis. She's here today. Say hi to the people.
Hello.
And of course, my child, my obvious child of the flesh, Jared Curley, our youth director. What's going on, bub?
Hello. How are you?
Great, man. Great. So kind of a weird question to start off today's podcast episode. What is your favorite church event memory? Period. Let's go.
Okay, thankfully, he gave us a little bit of time to process this before we started because I do not like surprises. So that's kindness. I was thinking it through, and I was not a believer growing up. My family was raised in a tradition in which there really wasn't an opportunity to have a personal relationship with Jesus. And so it was after I was in my early 20s that I started to, well, God was pursuing me, and I started pursuing him in return. But I got involved in youth ministry and took a group of middle schoolers down to Atlanta, and we did some work with some daycare kind of place for troubled youth. And it was there that a little boy named Anthony came running into the room and just like destroyed every toy, threw everything. He was mad. And of course, all the other kids are looking at him. All the kids, all the other volunteers are looking at him like, wow, this is scary. This is all that. And my heart broke for him because why was he so angry at such a young age? So by the end of that week, that young man was used by God to probably change the trajectory of my life towards the orphan, the one who is feeling broken and rejected and is working all their stuff out because they don't have the capacity to do it without some help. So that's probably my favorite memory. And doing stuff like that with young people is tiring, but so much fun. Yeah. So yeah, God used that in a big way.
Yeah.
Cynthia took this in like a way more Christian direction than I'm going to take it. But Jared,
I think it's actually, that has inspired another memory that I was going to say VBS last year because that was just super fun being on the other side of VBS. I didn't volunteer for any kind of anything that didn't serve me as a teenager because I was a brat. But so it's basically if I couldn't play drums or like get anything out of it, I wasn't doing it. But last year, obviously, because it was my first year being a production director, having to do it, it was just a super like cute, fun experience. And luckily, my friend Alicia was doing photography for the whole event, and we kind of have like a similar like affectionate feeling towards kids, and so we were just like having a really good time, like running around the building and just like watching these kids go crazy for like the smallest things. But to kind of match the energy of like what Cynthia said, I have a lot of positive camp experiences that really bump up against Royce's theology, maybe even. It might go as deep as that. But
I hate youth camp.
But I had a number of like really, really positive experiences. Some really cringy ones. They made me beatbox one time, and that was like a whole thing. But I remember my senior year going. I really, I didn't really know what any of this whole thing was about. I knew I had grown up in church. I didn't really know if I was saved or not, but I knew that the year before I had like really heard the voice of God like super clearly. And so I was like, whatever this is, like I'm willing to give up vaping for a week to go here and like hang out, like, cause it's enough, like right. I really want whatever that encounter was again. And I ended up being the only senior going, and it wasn't a small youth group. I don't know if you remember how many kids. It was probably around like 30.
Yeah, but that year we had shed an entire senior class because of some transition stuff. So.
And I really love Royce, so I stuck around.
Yeah, it was like you and Cole.
Yeah, your two kids were the ones that yeah. But so it was just kind of a cool feeling. I like being in positions of leadership, not because I necessarily like all the things that come with leadership, but it's really like one of the things I can point to that like God is for sure just ingrained in the way that I operate. And so it was kind of funny being like, or not funny, but just like fun being like a peer leader in that kind of like in that group of people. And it all kind of culminated with, I think the last night or the second to last night, one of my best friends at the time, it was during a worship session and a bunch of people were going up for prayer and stuff, and him and I were kind of close to the altar just worshiping, and he turned to me and like asked me to pray for some really heavy stuff that was like going on with his mom, like just some health things, and just feeling the weight and the response. Nobody had ever asked me to pray for anything before. I think Natalie Bryan asked me to pray for the beginning of service one time as a worship team, and I think I literally said like a sentence, and then like,
thank you, Jesus. Amen.
Yeah, literally. And so, you know, but I didn't feel nervous or anything like that because he was such a close friend and stuff. I just was like, okay, we're gonna hunker down and I'm just gonna pray. Like, this person knows who I am, you know what I mean? So I'm just going to pray as authentically as I can for this dude in his situation. And it was like, I just felt this unlock of like, of understanding leadership, not even in the context that I had previously understood it, which was like drumline and being a band leader on certain weeks where someone couldn't make it or whatever, like these kind of very limited ideas of what leadership was. And to see it in this kind of like... in this more, I don't want to say church, I don't necessarily even want to say Christian, but just in this like this life context of like, you're not just built to lead these systems and these organizations, but like you're built to lead even your peers, you know, and like people, you know, like not just these kind of, like I said, like organizations and kind of structured things. And so it was just a really impactful moment that I still didn't really know much of what to do with, but looking back, it's such an easy thing to point at and be like, oh wow, like you really... It's so cool that God trusts us with these things and these really precious moments, and like, especially in positions of leadership before we even really deserve it. You know what I mean? Like, I had no quote unquote right, you know, to pray for this guy in the quote unquote right way. You know what I mean? But God touched his heart and told him that I was the guy that needed to pray for him in this auditorium filled with tons of people, again, quote unquote, qualified to pray for him. And so it was just so cool to see like the heart of God in that moment, looking back on it. So... yeah.
You guys are so much more saved than I am. Just, it's the way it is. No, so my favorite church event moment, like I loved taking the team to Roca Blanca. It was so amazing going into the indigenous villages. Years prior, I had taken a team to the Los Angeles Dream Center, Matthew Barnett's place, and we would go out to these, just like we went to Watts, we went to like all of these different kind of desolate places and fed the homeless, and had a good time. Like we worked really hard during the day, and this is kind of my philosophy, right? Like we worked hard during the day, and then we did something super fun at night. So we'd go to like Huntington Beach, or like one night I took them out to Rodeo Drive and just kind of hung out, and so that was kind of the rhythm. And immediately when I got back from that trip, we had the church picnic. It was back when we did the church picnic, and I was exhausted. I was literally just like off of a 1-week missions trip to Los Angeles where we're like going the whole time. And then I get off the plane and I'm in the car to the park where we're doing this picnic at the And one of the things I was doing was manning a bounce house. And this was like kind of a little bit earlier in the event, but there was probably, a good solid 130 people there. And I'm standing by this bounce house and I just see this kid who I know, and I'm not going to say his name, but I see this kid. He's probably about 2.5, 3 years old, and he lives in the woods, right? He lives away from people. But this kid had pulled his pants all the way down in the middle of this church picnic and was peeing. And I saw it, and then I looked for his dad, and I locked eyes with his dad immediately as he saw what his son was doing and was he was just distraught. It was so funny. It was one of the funniest moments. But so I'm a little bit more sarcastic with the favorite events things. You guys are way more saved than I am. But hey, the reason why I wanted to kind of ask you guys that question was because for those of you who don't know, speaking of VBS, there's a lot of construction that's going on around the church, and it was a postponed construction project that wasn't supposed to overlap with June significantly, but it, in the way that construction projects are, they kind of take their time as they will, and that kind of led us to look at the viability of VBS and come to the conclusion that we're not going to be able to pull off what we would want to present to you guys and your kids as a really good option. But in view of all of that and God's sovereignty, we have worked with some amazing people, and we have constructed what we are calling Summer Shakeup. And so the first Summer Shakeup event is on June 23rd, and it is at Heritage Park, Pavilion number 9 at 6:30. Cynthia, what kind of details you want to share about that?
Yeah, we're super excited for you and your family. All the events in Summer Shakeup are family events. Our prayer is that God will bring and strengthen the community of his people, and there will be fun events to invite other people into the community of God. So the first one, like Pastor Roy said, is going to be on Friday, June 23rd from 6 to 8 p.m., Heritage Park, Pavilion 9. We're asking you to bring your own dinner, and if you have a favorite summer game to play outdoors, to bring that. We are going to provide freeze pops and 2 big inflatables, and then you don't want to miss this. This guy's really fun. Casey Bubble Guy. Every human becomes 3 years old when bubbles fly through the air, and these are like massive bubble displays and getting all gooey in bubbles. So your kids are going to go crazy. And so we don't want to miss an opportunity to invite you out to that with your families, invite others to it. We're really praying for the strengthening of bonds that tie us together as a community.
Yeah, I think it's super important to, we made a kind of a transition back in 2019 where, as a church executive staff, we just kind of looked at, our calendars were always super full, and we're always executing weekend services and then some big event. And we kind of came to this place where we had to, really look at discipleship as the primary mechanism of how we're going to operate and what we're really called to do. Right, we're not an event center that also does church. Yeah. It was kind of the conclusion, and so that's when we kind of shifted really hard to focus on harvest groups, and but as a byproduct of that, we really cut back on our events. And one of the things I've heard for years, I've heard 2 things just over and over and over again. Let's do the church picnic. We want to do the church picnic, and so guess what? We're doing it on the 23rd. Be there. Come join us. And then the other one that I've heard over and over again is we want to do youth camp. And we're not doing youth camp this year, but we do have a conference that we're going to. And it's kind of a test, because if I can't get you to commit your kid to 3 nights for $89, then I'm definitely not going to get you to commit to a week that's $500. Yeah. And by the way, you got to come and volunteer, because I got to take 1 adult volunteer for every 5 students that I bring to any camp in America. So there's that. There's the seed, the seeds of these other things that we got to kind of do to invest our time or figure out where we want to invest our time. And so it's a really big deal. Come join us on the 23rd. I'll give you guys just a little quick preview of the remainder of the events. We'll do one in July 16th. We're renting out Black Bob Bay from 7:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. So you definitely don't want to miss that. We'll have the whole park to ourselves. And we want as many people there as humanly possible, because obviously if 50 people show up and we rented out the whole park, you're going on that slide a lot of times. So we're going to need everybody to show up and show out. And then August the 4th, we're doing a really incredible opportunity that we have here at the church. We're doing movie night on that evening. And so you definitely don't want to miss that. That's going to be actually one of the most impactful. It's one of the ones I'm looking forward to the most. But there's kind of your preview, June 23rd, July 16th, and August 4th. Before I kick it over to Jared for a little bit, I kind of wanted to let you guys know of some different things. One of the things that we're doing this year, I'm kind of bringing something back, and I'm giving you a lot of time in advance because this won't happen until August. There's 2 different things that are kind of happening, and they coincide with one another in August. The first one is if you have a student that is in 8th grade and they are going into 9th grade, promotion weekend will be the weekend of August the 13th. So the second Sunday in August is where we do promotion Sunday, and that's for everyone. So that's for kids that are going from, preschool into kindergarten, 1st grade to 2nd grade, all the way down the line. So everyone's going to promote that weekend. But as a byproduct to that, obviously we have kiddos that are going to be transitioning spaces. And specifically, I'm talking about students that are going from 3rd grade into 4th grade because they'll be going from elementary to preteen. Students that are going from 5th grade into 6th grade because they'll be going from preteen to middle school. And students from 8th grade going to 9th grade because they'll be going from middle school to high school. We are hosting an event for all, if that's you, if you happen to be in that space, we're hosting an event on Friday, August 11th, and it's going to be here at the church, more than likely in the South Auditorium. I'll kick out a form to you guys so that way, because we will need you to RSVP, so that way we know what kind of food to get and how much space that we need. But we really want to take, just a little bit of time and kind of do, this similar to the way that the schools will be doing an orientation into these kids' new spaces. We want them to, go and be able to see where they're going to be, get excited about that transition, not just at school, but obviously also here at church. But then one caveat to that is that for the students that are going from 8th grade into 9th grade, we're actually going to be doing what's called freshman camp, and that's going to lead into it. So it's going to be the Wednesday and Thursday before Friday the 11th. So the 9th and the 10th, it's here at the church. It's an all-day thing. It's like 9:30 a.m. until 5 p.m. And my student leaders lead that throughout the day. I kind of sit them down, and there's a big transition here at Church of the Harvest when a kid goes from middle school into high school. There's different responsibilities. There's different expectations. There's also different levels of just kind of fun things that we do that we introduce them to during that time. So it's a little bit longer of an orientation process. And so want to encourage you guys that if that's you, to get your kiddos signed up. Like I said, you'll be getting an email within the next week or two with both of those events. And us just kind of emphasizing that it's a little bit newer of a thing. I've done freshman camp for years, but when COVID happened, it disrupted so many things for, honestly, 2 or 3 years that I couldn't bring it back. And so we're doing it again for the first time this year. And so we're also adding in the Friday night event for all the kiddos who are going through transitions. What's up, Cynthia?
Just to add to that as well, so kids that are moving from preschool to kindergarten, you'll be getting an email from me if your child is 5, asking the question whether they will be moving forward into kindergarten, because I know not every child moves and promotes into kindergarten. And so for those kiddos, we're planning on doing something on that Sunday morning to invite you all back into the South Auditorium and just do a little but breakfast kind of foods, just finger foods, and introduce to the leaders and then take them to their rooms with you. And so they'll get introduced that morning to their new space. We will probably take a little field trip before then, just so it won't be completely unfamiliar. But we just want to make it a special day for them. And we know for those kind of kids to be in a big room with a bunch of older kids, that might be overwhelming. So we're going to do that on Sunday, August 13th. But you'll get more information about that in the months ahead.
Awesome. And so a little bit on the other side of the spectrum, middle school and high school, we have kicked off our summer semester of high school service from 6 to 8 p.m. on Sunday nights. Jared, what are you excited for this semester?
Not prepared for that question.
Yeah, I don't know all of it. That's such a weird question. Well, we're already in it, so it's like I took over the youth worship this semester. I think that's been my main focus because, especially in June, Royce is preaching all of June, so I haven't had to develop the content as much. I am really excited. So we're in the we're in the series called Wildfire right now. Next month is going to be the series that I kind of take, and I'm going to try and tap some of our leaders to preach. But that series is, we don't really have a complete title for it yet. We have some stuff that we're throwing around, but it's basically around the Beatitudes and then, the Sermon on the Mount in general. So especially I really like to hit with that age range, especially, and even with peers, like young adults, really you've heard it said, do not commit adultery, but I say anyone that has lust in your heart. Same thing, on the anger route, with murder and different things like that. Basically the idea that just, one of the most important messages Jesus taught, he really made it a point to say, I didn't come for your actions and the things that you do. I came to transform your heart, you know? And I think that's just something that, really is super impactful to, like I said, not just high schoolers and middle schools, but also people my age and people your guys' age, and
just people, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's a message that never gets old. So I'm super excited to dive into that, not just to teach it, but also just for the personal reminder of the priorities that Jesus has in our individual relationships with Him, and so that's a big deal. But also, right now, I'm really just in the weeds with the youth worship stuff, like I said. Really just trying to work around that auditorium, especially, and just kind of make it as aesthetically pleasing as I can, given all of the different things going on in there and the chairs that are just stacked in the back and all these different things. So that's really kind of that's where my head is at right now. But in terms of what I'm the most excited for, it's just seeing my relationship with the kids on the youth team develop, and then also, like I said, just developing that series out and really working through that content. But it's such a broad question, man, because then it's also all the relationships with the kids that I'm developing.
Summer with youth is super special, man.
Yeah.
It's such a cool season of time, and it's really weird because a lot of other people in the church world, they kind of slow down over the summer, and I've always, the staff here knows that my schedule is quite opposite from theirs in that regard, as to they're kind of dying down certain things in the summer and taking vacations. That's the go time in the youth world, because they're home and typically they have one or two things to do, but other than that they're just sitting around doing nothing. And so we get them really busy as we can here at the church with student leadership and with the summer semester for Sunday nights, and just building those relationships and making memories is a really big deal for me over the period, because there's very few people who the most impactful time of their life wasn't when they were a teenager, and that's true spiritually as well. And so getting to be a part of that and getting to just really have some special moments with them is a big deal during the summer. And
I was gonna say too, when you brought up Bold and mentioned that we're not doing a camp, but we are going to this conference, I really think it's going to feel, or it's at least going to it's going to offer a lot of the best things that I experienced from camp, which is just being around the same people for a few days in a row. You know what I mean? That really, you really get comfortable with each other, and students really get comfortable with leaders, and students really get comfortable with each other, and leaders get comfortable with leaders. And it kind of you come out of it feeling differently about each other. Hopefully in a positive way. It was always positive for me.
It's a bonding experience for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And I think just being around being a small, how do I want to say this? Being a group that you're used to feeling like a larger group inside of the context of a larger group. Does that make sense?
For sure.
Yeah, I think that really, it gives you some identity of this is my church and this is how we do things and these are my peers and different things like that. But you also get to see how other churches operate and different things like that. So I think it's going to be really a huge deal.
Yeah, for those, so it's really funny because I've had a few people ask me hey, what's some more information on Bold? It's the only event that we have that has its own website. So it's Bold KC, just Google it and you'll find all the FAQs, all the times, all the things. One of the things I'm most excited about is it's really run by a group of young kids. There's oversight on the administrative part of it, but the actual function of it is just these really really strong group of students. One of them's name is Dawson Perkins. He's a good friend of mine. He's a son of David Perkins, who's the lead pastor at Radiant Church. And Dawson goes all over the country and speaks at all kinds of Gen Z events, in arenas and, all of these, kind of large things. But at the end of the day, I mean, like, we sit down and I have coffee with him, and he's like one of my young adults. He's trying to figure out the world, but he knows that he loves Jesus with all his heart, and he wants to see, peers of his and people that are, just a little bit younger than him, really find their legs whenever it comes to this whole journey that we have in following Jesus. And it's such a beautiful thing to me because, one of the things that it provides is it provides an example. Yeah. An example, and it gives students permission to be radical for Jesus. It's hard to imagine what that looks like whenever you don't have an example. But as soon as you have an example, man, it's so amazing to see how students really lean in. And I don't think there's anything that's more important in this day and age than students that are fully committed to following Jesus. You can pick whatever cultural issue that you want to pick, and I don't think that there's too many different solutions outside of a generation just figuring out to, with hopeless abandon, just follow Jesus. Or reckless abandon. It's hopeful abandon. But reckless abandon, just, going all in for Jesus. And so it's just a small chasm. It provides some kind of just logical solutions as well. I don't know if you guys are aware, but, doing something that's overnight with students is a very complicated issue, and it's very dicey. So it's something that not a lot of people do anymore, just because of a lot of the risks that are associated with it, and there are a lot of risks associated with it. And so it's local. We'll hope that it's engaged, and maybe next year we'll be able to provide some space that those students spend all day with each other over that 3-day period of time. But it's kind of the toe in the water, so to speak, of kind of entering back into what should this look like. And it's easy to engage with. Life Mission Church is hosting it, so it's right here in Olathe, 3 evenings. So it's pretty much as low key as you can get on the logistics side of things, with also being high impact, which I'm a huge fan of, because my administrative muscles don't work at all. But anyway, you guys know that. So only other thing that I would say is, if you are the parent of a middle school student, or you're going to be the parent of a middle school student here real quick, we want to encourage you to join the high school youth team. It's a semester-based system, and so we're not asking you for the rest of your life, but we definitely do want you to engage that. And the reason is because even if you don't feel called to youth ministry, guess what? You are. So one of the great things about faith is that you oftentimes don't feel it. And if you have a kid that's in 6th grade or going into 6th grade, getting ready for youth ministry is going to be a big deal, because it's going to hit you faster than you know. And it comes quick, doesn't it, Cynthia?
Absolutely.
And so we want to encourage you to engage that. I know summer's usually not the, best time to do that. Or if you look, here's my thing, and you guys know that I'm super biased whenever it comes to youth ministry, but like I said earlier, I don't know if there's a more impactful season in a person's spiritual development than their teenage years. And if it's not, then it's as soon as you get to know Jesus. It's like, I was 21, Cynthia was in her early 20s. Jared got saved like last year. I'm playing. But it's a really formidable time. It's where those memories are made and those bonds are made as well. And being a part of that's just an amazing piece of the journey. I long for the day where I'm, one of a dozen people that have been serving our teenagers for more than 10 years. Because, we, as a church culture that's 25 years old, our students deserve that. They just do. But that doesn't happen until, we get committed to that, in that season of individuals. And that's, I know everybody's going to get real loud around political issues next year. Get ahead of the curve, get in with some teenagers, and start changing people's lives now. So I want to encourage you to do that. Talk to me, talk to Jared if that's you. If not, we'll be talking to you. But love you guys. Can't wait to make amazing memories with you guys this summer. We're super excited for the summer shake up, these events that are coming, and just getting to serve you guys throughout the week. And so until next time, love you.
Peace.
Peace.